Hey fellow movie freaks, it's American Movie Freak Tracy here, and with this video I'm excited to tell you that I'm hitting a milestone of 25 videos posted. These movie reviews have been something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I mentioned in a previous movie review some time ago, don't remember when, that a buddy of mine said you should just start doing it, and so I finally just did. And so 25 videos is kind of a important milestone for me, so I just thought I would share that with you. Having said that, let's get down to business. Today we're talking about George Foreman, the miraculous story of the once and future heavyweight champion of the world. That's quite a mouthful. I'm just going to shorten it by calling it George Foreman from now on. George Foreman is rated PG-13 for sports violence, and the runtime is 2 hours and 9 minutes. Now, I pulled some financial figures for this film since it actually opened on April 28th, just like the other movie review that I posted today. I actually just saw this one on Saturday night. So I've been seeing all the other ones, trying to catch up, and I finally had an opportunity to see this one. When I looked up the numbers, I saw that the estimated budget for this film was approximately $32 million. Sadly, as of the time I looked up the numbers, the film had still only barely earned $500,000. So it's not doing well in the theaters, and I don't know why, because I actually really liked the film. Let's get some other details, and then I'll talk about what I liked and what I didn't like about the film. George Foreman stars Chris Davis as George Foreman.
Where's all that rage coming from? I don't have any rage.
Forrest Whitaker as Doc Brodus.
But in every battle, the greatest foe that we will combat isn't here.
Jasmine Matthews as Mary Joan.
How's being a preacher going for you?
It's hard.
Harder than getting punched in the face.
Sullivan Jones as Muhammad Ali.
George Foreman ain't no new champ. He is the new chump. We gonna get it on because we don't get along. Foreman goes down!
Sonia Sohn as Nancy Foreman, George Foreman's mother. Shen Mon Premier as George Foreman's first wife, Paula. And Matthew Glave as Howard Cosell. There were, of course, other actors in this film, and they did a decent job. The plot of the film is pretty easy. It's basically starts out with the life of George Foreman as a child. It talks about how he was raised in a poverty-stricken area with a single mom. And I'm not going to worry too much about spoiling, because a lot of this information is out on the web. So hopefully I'm not spoiling the movie for anyone, but it's well known that George Foreman grew up in a poor home. There's a really sad but telling scene early on in the film where the kids and Nancy are gathered around the table for dinner, and she pulls out a single hamburger and then cuts it into 5 pieces and hands a piece to each of the kids. It did a great job of demonstrating the conditions that he grew up in. He had no financial advantages in his life, so it was a good way to set it up, to show how he had to not only fight as a boxer, but fight his way throughout life. He was being judged by everyone, but it didn't stop him from achieving his goal to become the heavyweight champion of the world. And not only once, but twice. Chris Davis was amazing as George Foreman. If you put pictures of George Foreman side by side with pictures of Chris Davis in this role, you'd see that they did a really good job of making him look like George Foreman looked back when he, at each of the time periods that they're talking about. Another amazing thing was watching him as he's training and as he's in the ring in the movie was very accurate as far as how George Foreman moved in the ring. I felt that Davis spent the time to figure out how to look and how to move, and for that he did a stellar job. It really made it easy to believe that he was George Foreman because he looked and moved just like George Foreman. Not only did he do a great job in the acting part of that, I want to give kudos to the makeup and the costume group of this film, because all of the scenery, all of the scenes, all of the costumes, everything that was in this film, and down to the makeup on Chris Davis, was very well done. In my opinion, if you have really good scenery, makeup, and costumes, it really lends to the credibility of what time period you're in and the believability of the story, which I think is really important, especially when you're telling a story of an actual famous person. I want to also note that George Foreman was an executive producer on this film, which is why I think the film is as good as it is. What's very admirable about George Foreman being part of this film is that he could have easily cut out some of the negativity that was in this film. For example, he cheated on his first wife and she left him, and he ended up getting married later on, but he didn't try to hide that from us. He left it in the film. He understood that people need to see both the good and the bad. Yes, he was an amazing boxing champion, and the things that he did was amazing, but he also took care to show that he's only human, just like the rest of us. I love that he did that, and it really, for me, makes the movie a little bit more endearing and certainly elevates it in my mind. He's not trying to sugarcoat things and make it look like he was this great person all the time. He is a great person. He turned out to be a great person, but in order to get there, he went through a lot of challenges too, and he showed that to us on the screen. It really, truly is a story about his life, good, bad, and amazing. Another thing that I really liked in the film, maybe because I lived through it, it was really neat to see all of the fights that I actually witnessed, have them recreated on the screen. There's two actors in the film that I really want to mention. Sullivan Jones, who played Muhammad Ali. When I first saw him, I was like, wow, he really looks like a young Muhammad Ali. But even more so, just like Chris Davis, Sullivan Jones did his homework. He must have watched a lot of video. He nailed the way Muhammad Ali says the phrases. He was always coming up with these spur of the moment, pithy phrases when he's talking to people. Muhammad Ali was always a showman, no matter where he was. Sullivan Jones really showed that on the screen. The other one, although he's not as popular of an actor, Matthew Glave, who played Howard Cosell. I thought, though it's really hard to mimic Howard Cosell perfectly, again, kudos to the costume and makeup team, because he really looked like Howard Cosell, and he was very believable in the delivery of his lines, and I really could feel that he could be the real Howard Cosell. Those two supporting actors, I think, brought real credibility to the movie and to the roles of everyone else, because they did such an amazing job. And not to minimize Chris Davis also, because he also did a great job, as I mentioned earlier. And honestly, I would have thought it would be really difficult to find somebody who could achieve what Sullivan Jones did in this film, to look and sound and act just like Muhammad Ali. I love the tagline that I mentioned at the beginning of the film, the miraculous story of the once and future heavyweight champion of the world. It describes wonderfully many parts of the film. Although it's a long name, it makes sense, and I'm glad that they included it in the title. Actually, the most amazing thing about the life of George Foreman is that at age 45, on November 5th, 1994, after having been away from boxing for a long time, he became the heavyweight champion of the world a second time. And he's still to this day the oldest man to have ever become heavyweight champion of the world. And that's what he wanted both times. He fought for it the first time, and he really fought for it the second time. And everybody said that he wouldn't do it, but he did. It's probably no surprise, but I really liked the film. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I highly recommend you go see it. Talking to my friends at the movie theater, they told me It's probably a good thing that I saw it when I did, because it didn't look like it was going to be in the theaters much longer. That's why I wanted to get this one out sooner than later, so that you'll have an opportunity to see it and hopefully go catch it before it's gone from the movie theaters. It's a wonderful tale, especially if you grew up during that time where he was rising either the first or the second time. If you like boxing, it's a great movie. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to send me an email, please do so at AmericanMovieFreaks@protonmail.com, or leave a comment below. I always respond to emails or comments, so thank you for those. And until next time, I'll see you at the show.